Well, folks, Tennessee has really went and done it. If you think them standing up for your right to marry your cousin was bad, now they have passed a bill that would arm the teachers. Yeah, you heard that correctly. You know, every time I sit down in this chair to talk about Tennessee politics, I feel like all the videos start off the same. It starts with me saying, folks, it's bad here, but there's a lot of good people here. There's a lot of good voices. We're sick and tired of it. We don't want to see this. And that's the truth when it comes to this. The majority of Tennesseans do not want to see this bill pass. We do not want to see our teachers armed. We do not want to put that responsibility on the teachers. It's absolute insanity. And the parents that are speaking out about this, well, when they do, they just get silenced. Because like Justin Pearson says, the way it works here in Tennessee, they always silence dissent. Take a look at this clip.
These are parents that only want to keep their kids safe, and yet they're being silenced. They're being removed from a public forum because they just want to share their concerns about really flawed and dangerous policies and legislation that's getting passed in your state.
This is the way that the Tennessee Republican Party works. They silence the voices of dissent in order that they can be corrupt, and use their power and be corrupted, absolutely using it. And they wield it against anybody that they believe is going to stand up against them. This is why Representative Jones and I were expelled. This is why the mothers are consistently being kicked out of the gallery and kicked out of committee rooms, even during our special session to address public safety. They are not interested in the safety of our kids. They're not interested in the safety of our teachers. They do not want to end the gun violence epidemic. They only want to proliferate it with bad policies and legislation that is supported by the Tennessee Firearms Association and supported by the National Rifle Association. They are not interested in making our community safer. And we have a responsibility to continue to show up. And I think Beth and all the mothers, like Mothers Over Murder and other organizations that are standing up in this moment to say that there has to be a better way and that this is not the way for us to move forward. But this is on par with how the Republican Party abuses its power. This is not new to me. It is not surprising to me. The removal of people from the galleries anytime that they sometimes are clapping or that they're speaking up in a building that their tax dollars pay for. The Republican Party, Cameron Sexton, William Lambert, they work hard, McNally, Lieutenant Governor McNally, to silence those voices of dissension. And that leads to really terrible and awful legislation that is going to lead to more kids losing their lives to being passed and being pushed through in our state house.
You know what's really funny to me? The Republican Party goes out of their way to vilify teachers. They go out of their way to make life harder on teachers, and they do nothing but demonize education. They don't want teachers teaching history. They don't want teachers teaching science. They basically want the church to be in control of what everyone learns and everyone hears. And the very people that will sit and demonize those teachers like that now wants to put the responsibility of them carrying a firearm and them protecting the children on them, on top of everything else they have to deal with. A teacher's job is to teach and educate our children, and they should be given every tool they need, but they should be able to do so themselves, being protected, not having to be the protector in the story. That's not where this should have ever went. This is absolute insanity. But there's going to be people out there that go, well, now, wait a minute, some schools can opt out on it. They don't all have to go along with it. Well, thankfully, we got another great voice here in Tennessee. His name is Justin Jones, and he takes this one.
What do you say to people who argue, well, schools have the option to opt out? Is that good enough?
I mean, it's not good enough, Stephanie. And I want to point out that the majority of Tennesseans are against this bill. 70% of Tennesseans want common sense gun laws, Republicans, independents, and Democrats. So this is not a both sides issue. I just want to be clear about that, that gunshot wounds are the leading cause of death of children in our state and across this nation. And the people are demanding that we act. They've showed up to our Capitol month after month saying we want laws that protect kids and not guns. We want laws that rein in this senseless terror and preventable tragedy of gun violence in our state and across this nation. And I want to add that another bill that's being offered is not just arming teachers, but in the House side, they just passed a bill through committee to lower the age to carry assault weapons to 18 and to allow the open carry of assault weapons by anybody in our state. And this is a bill that is so extreme that the governor's own Department of Safety is saying, we don't want this bill. This is not something that we can support. And so what we're hearing in our state is people saying that our legislature is morally insane. We have a Republican supermajority that is just lost their mind. And, passing laws just last week to honor the Tennessee rifle, the same week that we are recognizing the Covenant tragedy here in our state, a mass shooting that took the lives of 3 9-year-olds and 3 adults. And yet we're going to honor a gun. And the only law that we passed after the Covenant mass shooting was to protect firearms manufacturers. So what we're seeing is a Republican supermajority that is beholden to the gun industry, that is beholden to gun extremists, that's beholden to the NRA, and that is not listening to the people of Tennessee.
Then, Representative, what do you think is going to happen when all of this ends up on the governor's desk?
I mean, unfortunately, we have a governor who does not have a lot of political courage. And so he's either going to sign it or allow it to take effect without his signature. The governor lost a friend in the Covenant shooting, and we thought that he would act. He called a special session, but he bowed down to the extremists who've taken over his party and has done nothing. And so what we say is that it's going to take people rising up. Just this week in the Senate chamber, I'm in the House, but in the Senate chamber, we saw mothers and grandmothers and clergy escorted out by troopers because they refused to allow this law to pass in the comfort of silence. They shouted, they said, shame on you. They said, vote them out, because they're sick and tired of these, of these lawmakers, the Republican lawmakers, refusing to act to protect kids and instead listening to their donors from the Tennessee Farms Association and the NRA. And so they shouted and they disrupted session. They said, we cannot allow this to happen without raising a dissent. And that's what we must continue to see. And when we vote on this bill next week in the House, I hope that these mothers, I know that they will continue to show up and fight for a state that honors our children, that protects our children, and that listens to our teachers who say, we want supplies, we want fair pay and livable salaries. We don't want guns in our schools. Not one teacher in my district has said that they want this law. What they said they want is they want more books, they want more supplies, they want better pay. That's what our teachers want, not more guns in our schools.
Yeah, Tennessee Republicans have absolutely lost their mind. And not only have they cowered to the extremism in their party, the extremism now is their party. There's not a voice of reason on the other side. When the good voices like Justin Jones, Justin Pierce, and Gloria Johnson, the Tennessee Three, when they go in there to talk, they don't have a voice of reason on the other side to come back at them. They have this batshit lunacy that says, hey, let's arm our teachers. That's what they're having to deal with. And some people would say, well, is it really lunacy? Yeah, it's lunacy. Call it for what it is. Don't sit here and say this is interesting. Don't sit here and say that this is a both sides argument. It's not. This is not a both sides argument on this one. Tennesseans, Republicans, Democrats, and Independents, we don't want this. We do not want to see teachers armed in the classroom. I've said before that every day when I drop my son off at school, I say to myself, I hope he makes it. I hope we're not the little small town it happens to next. And I sure as hell don't want to be sitting there going, well, now the teachers are armed in there. And I don't want it to be the Wild West where my kids are being educated. I know I keep going back to this, but it's so frustrating to see Republicans vilify and demonize teachers and education and then turn around and want to put this pressure and this added stress on them. Oh yeah, by the way, you need to be armed now. Well, the only really idea I have here, and I know it may sound crazy, but it's really the only possible idea or solution I have to this lunacy. To any teacher out there that disagrees with this, just go buy you a firearm, put it on your side, walk into your classroom, open up a science book, and just start talking. Start teaching science every day. Just open up the book on history. Start talking about critical race theory. Start talking about transgenderism. Do it. Just talk about it. Just say, hey, I know this is supposed to be home ec, but no, we're going to talk about transgenders today. And do that because maybe then the Republicans in this state would step up and go, wait a minute, they're holding our kids at gunpoint, teaching them this extreme shit. I mean, that's all I know to do at this point. Just hit them where it hurts. I don't know. That's. I know it sounds ridiculous, but that's what you would hear. That's what you're going to hear next. Once this happens, you're going to hear them saying, oh, they're holding our kids at gunpoint and teaching them this bullshit. So just, there's good people here in Tennessee. I show you clips of them all the time. And I've got a pretty big platform on here, so there's at least over 150,000 people that thinks one guy in Tennessee ain't too bad. At least we got that. I thank you guys for listening. I thank you guys for tuning in. And in the words of the Golden Girls, thank you for being a friend, really, because it's tough here in Tennessee. And I'm at the point, to be honest with you, where I'm like Hawkeye Pierce on MASH. I'm just laughing at this point to keep from crying.